Okay, hi, my name is Elizabeth, and today I'm going to be talking to you about racism. So, racism is obviously still a problem in today's society, and it is a result in structural racism. Racism is still a flaw in the American ideals because throughout the years, democracy, opportunity, equality, equal rights, liberty, and freedom have been maintained for the white people to intentionally exclude and persecute people of color. This all started in 1619 when a journal entry was recorded that 20 and odd Angolans were kidnapped by the Portuguese and had arrived in British colonies of Virginia to be sold and bought by English colonists. So, during the 17th century, North American colonies went from having poor European servants to enslaved Africans because it was cheaper. In 1863, on January 1st, Abraham Lincoln had issued a preliminary emancipation proclamation making it official that enslaved people within any state or designated part of a state in rebellion shall be thenceforward and forever free. This proclamation changed the goal of war to not only preserve the Union, but to also end slavery. The 13th Amendment had then abolished slavery in 1865. And a series of laws known as the Black Codes, which were designed to restrict freed black people's activity and ensure their availability as labor force, had been enacted. And then the 14th Amendment had granted equal protection to the Constitution of the people who had been enslaved. In 1870, the 15th Amendment had then guaranteed that a citizen's right to vote would not be denied because of their race, color, or previous condition of servitude. And during this Reconstruction era, the black Americans had won elections to the southern state governments and the U.S. Congress. And as more of this began, many of the white Southerners were not happy because they felt as if their power was slipping away from them little by little. And the KKK, known as the Ku Klux Klan, arose during this period, which were the white protective societies, and they had tried to intimidate black voters by using extreme violence. And as the Reconstruction period was coming to an end, black Americans had noticed that their social status was barely making any improvement. Their political gains had been wiped away by white supremacist force. Okay, so structural racism is making it harder for colored people to have a secure education, job, housing, healthcare, and equal treatment in the criminal justice system. Across the country, there are protests going on for the killings of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and the shooting of Jacob Blake. These killings have brought back the attention of the high-profile deaths of African Americans and the ongoing racism in the criminal justice system. Breonna Taylor was a medical worker that was shot and killed by police officers in her own home during a botched raid on her apartment. No charges were announced against the two officers who fired shots and caused Breonna's death. Brett Hankinson, who was a detective at the time, fired into the sliding glass patio door and window of Breonna's apartment that were both covered with blinds, violating department policy that requires the officers to have a line of sight. The detective was the only one that was dismissed from the force. As Breonna was shot, she was lying on the floor, struggling to breathe. Meanwhile, no one actually believed she was wounded. She had been lying on the floor for more than 20 minutes until she had received medical attention. It was said that Breonna died less than a minute from when she was shot, and the progress in her case has been moving slowly ever since. The government's response to this has been talks about defunding the police in certain cities. And in some other cities, they are proposing the idea of eliminating the police or reducing their funds. And for our president, he denies the fact that black people suffer disproportionately from police brutality. He brushes off the fact that black people have been killed by police and just said that white people are killed in great numbers too. And The president's remarks are showing that he refuses to acknowledge the racial discrimination going on today. And the federal government has used the fear of threats, whether they are real or not, to conduct surveillance on domestic groups and people who look or act different. America has not lived up to its founding ideals because there are still basic rights that colored people don't have because of white supremacists. Many Americans have come to question the freedom and liberty in this country that is all about equality and equal rights. Thank you.